burning of tires here and there. But then let's go back to that live live coverage, the live picture motions of the motorcade of the Azimio team. They are along Mombasa Road, actually nearing Capital Center, just trying to make their way to where they want to go to, because the thing about Raila Odinga with his demonstrations, anytime you think he's reached his final destination, that is not the case. So we just don't know where he's heading to right now. But this is a confirmation that security has been beefed up in different parts of the country, just to ensure that every Kenyan property, every Kenyan life is actually safe. And so they're passing Capital Center. They will also be passing actually near our offices right here, our headquarters of the Standard Group here along Mombasa Road. So we'll be able to tell you what is happening. But then remember, Raila is continuing with his demos, even after meeting a representative from the US, that is Senator Kwon, who had a meeting yesterday with him, and also a meeting with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. But the meeting happened on the same day, but different hours. And of course, Raila Odinga took to his social media platform and told Kenyans, his supporters, what the meeting was all about. And of course, Deputy Rigathi Gachagua did the same, telling Kenyans what the meeting was all about. And of course, we've also heard from the president of the US, Joe Biden, urging both parties, that is the Azimio team and the Kenya Kwanza administration, to tone down the high political temperatures that has been witnessed in the country for the better part of last week and this week, saying that even the right of demonstrations should be considered here in the country. And of course, still questions being asked about the attack, the invasion of the land of former President Uhuru Kenyatta by an unknown goons who landed on that land, cut trees and took livestock. Some were selling it as cheap as 2,000 shillings. But then the DPP has already ordered for thorough investigations and a file to be tabled in his office within 14 days, so as to have the people who led these goons be held accountable for what happened in that land of the family of the former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Now, still the same Mombasa Road, that motorcade of the Azimio team heading, I was about to say heading somewhere, I mean giving the exact name, but I can't, because we're yet to know where they will be heading to. But just to confirm to you that they are along Mombasa Road nearing Airtel. So we are yet to know where they will be heading to in terms of the final destination and the sort of stopovers that Raila Odinga will be making and the sort of messages that he will be having for his supporters. Of course, we continue this live coverage, giving you a 360 angle degree in a transparent, balanced manner through my colleagues on the ground, our reporters, our camera crew, who are also working very hard round the clock to ensure that we give you the live coverage only the best way that we can when it comes to this Azimio mass action. When this mass action will be called off is a matter of wait and see, despite calls being made to Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa, Wajakoya, to try and call off this mass action that they said will be happening every Monday and Thursday. So that the country can continue to grow in terms of our economy. Remember last week, the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua talked about the country lost about 2 billion shillings on Monday last week. But this is a figure that is still being verified, because the Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja talked about the country losing about 300. The country losing about 300, the Nairobi County having lost about 300 million shillings or last week on Monday when that demonstration was happening. But then of concern also to Nairobi Governor, that is Johnson Sakaja, is that decision by Kisumu Governor Professor Peter Nyang' when he called off the Azimio mass action in Kisumu, saying that he will be coming over to Nairobi. And Sakaja reverted back by saying, you know what, Nairobi is not a county for holding demonstrations, and said that he's also banning any sort of demonstrations here in Nairobi County. But then, of course, Azimio team have maintained that they are doing what they know best so as to get the attention of the government, so as to ensure that the plight of Kenyans, that is what they are fighting for, to have the high cost of living go down, to have the IEBC server open so that they can know what transpired during the last year's presidential elections, that is the 2022 presidential elections. They want also the reinstatement of the IEBC commissioners left office in a very political, heated moment. And of course, talking about even the IEBC selection panel, they want one that every stakeholder will be involved. And just this week on the 27th of March, the ODM party leader, was also Azimio leader Raila Odinga, said that we will only have meaningful talks with the President William Ruto to end the protest that we've seen happening now for the last 3 days. This is the second week. Last week on Monday, we had a demonstration on Monday. This week, we saw the Azimio mass action happen on Monday and today, Thursday. So that's what I'm talking about. 2 weeks demonstrations and 2 weeks and 3 days demonstration. So I was just telling you what Raila Odinga said on the 27th of March. He said that he can only have meaningful talks with President William Ruto to end the protest if it stops dismembering the opposition, owing to the fact that we've seen some opposition elected leaders, members of parliament and senators crossing over to UDA, to Kenya Kwanza administration, saying that they are ready to work with the current government, and so as to bring development to the people, to their constituents and to residents of their counties that they represent. And he says he agrees if Ruto also goes ahead, if President William Ruto goes ahead to open the server, stops the reconstitution of IEBC, talking about wanting the other commissioners to go back to office, and agrees to sit with us, mentioning us, the likes of Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila Odinga himself, Eugene Wamalwa, to discuss how to lower the cost of living. And talking about this cost of living, it seems like it's the common denominator in this whole Azimio mass action, because Kenyans are supporting, a section of Kenyans are supporting this mass action when it comes to the lowering of the cost of living. Now, when we look at what is happening right now compared to other days, where we see deployment of heavy contingent of police officers trying to put a stop to the motorcade of the Azimio team, today is a totally different thing. We are seeing they're having a sort of like a free movement without any stoppage by police officers lobbing tear gas or using the water cannons. So that is totally different from what we've witnessed on Monday and Thursday. So today is more like a free movement for them. So we really don't know whether this happens after we've seen some international calls, international calls to have, Raila Odinga and the Kenya Kwanza administration under the leadership of President William Ruto come together to have a reasonable sort of like a setting to bring this to an end. And so they're almost, if I may say, that junction of Imara Daima, still along Mombasa Road, and it's just a bit of some traffic snarl up, and we are seeing his people trying to clear the traffic so as to pave way for the Azimio team. And so we are seeing along Mombasa Road, there was no deployment of police officers, but then in other parts of the country, areas that have been termed as the stronghold of the opposition, we have talked to our reporters on the ground, painted for us a picture of what is happening. And so we wait and see where this motorcade will end up. And so I was just trying to have a look at those live pictures as I sort of like paint for you a picture of what is happening in terms of the Azimio mass action. Later on, I will be having, we'll be dissecting this whole Azimio mass action, the sort of calls we've had from the international community, including the African Union this week, where they were just trying to urge parties involved in all this mass action and the leadership of this country to have a sit down and bring this to an end. So I will be speaking with my panelist, my residential panelist, that is Michael Lagwanda, and Dennis Anyoka later on, as we try to, give an understanding to our viewers of what is happening today. And so a bit of still traffic there. They're not using the expressway, but I can confirm to you that they are along Mombasa Road near Imara Daima. They've actually passed that junction of Imara Daima. So where they're heading to, we are yet to know. But so far, if I may give you a breakdown of some of the places that Raila Odinga has made stopovers ever since the mass action began. We saw him in Eastlands, specifically Eastleigh, Juja, and this week we also saw him in Kawangware and Kibra. That is where he was so far when it comes to this mass action. So today we are yet to know where Raila Odinga is heading to, together with his team, and the sort of message that he will be having for his supporters, because today we are seeing a totally different story, easy access to where they want to go to, if I may put it that way, because we've not seen any tear gas canisters lobbed, neither water cannons sprayed, lorries spraying the water, so we are yet to know where they are heading to, even as we try to find out from my colleague who's giving us this live pictures, our political reporter, where this entourage will be heading to the final destination. And so, for more news making the headlines when it comes to an in-depth coverage, 360 angle degree in a balanced way when it comes to the Azimio mass action, we have our reporters in Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nyeri, Kakamega, name it all, in all the corners of this country, just to try and paint for you a picture how it is in Kenya in terms of the Azimio mass